Did Destiny concede the debate?
Things like ages of the brides for the
things like ages of brides, all of these things
Probably
are
mainly
now
those
being
things,
imposed. So
but,
Muslims cannot practice.
Marrying 12-year-olds? I think that's probably an okay infringement of liberal rights.
You are conceding the debate because the whole debate is about does liberalism oppress Islam and Muslims? And you're conceding that, yeah, even right now, you from this table are, you're an armchair oppressor of Muslims. You're like, yeah, we should get rid of all these Islamic practices. Yes, we should get rid of Islamic law. You conceded the debate.
Well, the debate was on whether liberalism requires the domination of Islam. Destiny's argument was that Muslims live in liberal countries, and in Muslim countries, they're able to practice Islam. Let's see what Daniel thinks about Muslims living in Muslim countries.
What you're saying is so unbelievably outrageous. Like, I can't express how outrageous
What part of it was outrageous?
What Muslim societies exist in the world today? Where can Muslims actually implement Islamic law today in the world? And if they can't,
in
why
countries
not?
in Northern Africa or in the Middle East?
No, in Northern Africa, where are you allowed to apply Sharia, Islamic law? Where?
Sharia law can exist in any country. What do you mean?
Yeah, it can exist theoretically, yeah, but where does it exist in the world today?
In any Muslim community, it should exist.
No, this is where you're fundamentally mistaken. It's not allowed to exist because of a liberal world order. Nowhere in the world is Islam being practiced and Sharia law being practiced because it's not allowed to happen. The liberal order cracks down.
Oh, there are none. Logically, it would follow that Daniel would also be advocating to establish a khilafah, since apparently no Muslim countries exist, and that apparently means that no Muslims exist either because they can't practice Islam, and that these countries are all liberal countries. I wonder where I've heard something like that before. Destiny did not concede the debate. Actually, Destiny is correct. Liberalism doesn't inherently require the domination of Islam and Muslims.
You can educate me, maybe I'd be opposed to it. You said that liberalism is authoritative and that it overrules other parts of Sharia law. And then you brought up vaguely things like relationships or community. Now when I pushed you a little bit more, you mentioned, well, praying is part of Sharia. Praying is part of Islam. Liberals don't prevent you from praying if you're Muslim. In fact, my understanding is in certain workplaces in the United States, you can even get time off to do your 5 prayers towards Mecca a day, whatever you want to. The religious freedoms in the United States are usually pretty well respected. I think we would agree that the United States is a pretty liberal country.
What the debate should have been on is whether or not liberalism requires the domination of radical Islam, to which the answer is yes, it does. As Destiny argues, liberalism advocates for protecting people's rights from those who are infringing upon their rights. There was a ton of nonsense in this debate, so I'll just address some points I found amusing. I really don't see the issue with this AI scenario and brain and vat that Daniel kept trying to attack Destiny on. Let's take AI.
That could be technologically possible through AI or through robots, then that is a world that the liberal mind would prefer. And that is something, I could tell you, like, look, hey, Destiny, why don't we have AI right now that can actually run an entire country? We have different kinds of technologies through surveillance or microchip technologies that can prevent all crime. And we want to plug in everyone into this system and therefore create a perfect system of equality where there are no police, there are no administrators, therefore there's no police brutality, therefore there's no government corruption. Are you in favor of this, Destiny, or not? If you're not in favor of it, that means you're in favor of police brutality. That means you're in favor of corruption of government.
If we could have technology that could stop zina, murder, drugs, violence, facade before it happens, would he be in favor of this, Daniel, or not? Because if he's not in favor of this, then he's in favor of zina. He's in favor of facade fil ard. Same goes for this brain and vat.
Here's a thought experiment for you. So imagine that there is this new technology where people can essentially be brains and vats. And in this brain and vat situation, people will be in constant bliss. Basically, it's just your brain. You've lost your body, but it's basically like the Matrix, except you're in constant bliss. And the proponents of this technology say that this is great technology because now if everyone is a brain in a vat, there's not going to be any more rape. There's not going to be any more brutality. There's not going to be any more domestic abuse. No more children will be abused because everyone's going to be protected from any kind of violence when they're these brains in vats. And this is actually mandatory. Everyone needs to get brain in the vat, and that's justified. Why? Because we want to get rid of rape. We want to get rid of torture and crime and brutality, domestic abuse, child molestation. And would you say that this is something that you think is a good vision for the future? Like, do you think that, what would you say, would you want to actually be a part of that program?
If Daniel can be plugged into a machine where he would get his Salafi utopia, no more gays, no more feminists, no more liberals, an Islamic world order, would he not plug himself into it? Honestly, that's a self-report. Daniel is saying that if he was given the opportunity to live in his ideal Islamic country, he wouldn't. He'd rather live in this liberal-dominated world order that is oppressing Muslims. Not surprising that they're hypocrites. They advocate for something that they don't want themselves. I also don't get why Daniel is against artificial wombs.
Just to be clear, I don't think that this is a good project, obviously. I don't think artificial wombs are a good thing. I don't think that this kind of constant advance of technology to maximize freedom and equality is a good thing because it ends up destroying marriage, family, community, and belief in God. And
the Prophet promoted fertile women and discouraged marrying barren women because he wants Muslims to have tons of kids so that one day he can brag about the size of the ummah. So then why is Daniel against artificial wombs? If they're safe and effective, Muslims can have more and more kids, massively increasing the size of the ummah. When asked about whether gay people would be happier living in liberal countries versus a Muslim country, Daniel has the gall to say they'd be happier in a Muslim country.
You can figure it out. However you
Who's
think
got to be
about it.
happier? Who's got the
I'm not
people
asking you to be happier. Let's say,
No,
okay, well, let's
you
say,
didn't define easier for me, so I'll have to define it for myself.
okay, sure, we'll say happier.
Yeah, liberals living in a Muslim society.
Do you think
Everyone
do you
living in a
think-
Muslim society is going to be happier.
Do you think
yeah?
LGBTQ people would feel the same?
What do you mean by LGBTQ people?
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer people, do you think they would be happier living in a Muslim society or a liberal society?
A Muslim society.
No, actually they wouldn't. They wouldn't be living at all. Remember, this is the guy that jokes about throwing gay people off buildings. Really, it's common sense. Would gay people want to live in a country where they can express themselves for who they are? Or would they want to live in a country where they have to repress themselves in fear of a society that has such negative views about them that they advocate for the state to execute them? Well, at least in Daniel's utopia, gay people would benefit greatly from this happiness that they get from marriage and children, right? Oh, wait. Speaking of marriage, Daniel missed out a perfect time to share some common ground with Destiny. When Destiny asked Daniel about marriage laws that Muslims aren't able to practice in liberal countries,
Muslims cannot practice family law according to the Sharia in the United States.
What type of family law?
Family law, like divorce law.
You can't get divorced in the United States? What do you mean?
You can't get divorced according to Islamic requirements.
You can get, so in the United States, I know that for Catholics, we're allowed to get divorced in a legal sense, but there's an extra religious process called an annulment, and that's something that you can practice in the United States. What part of Islamic marriage law can't be practiced in the United States?
So, for example, this is a great example that's contrary to liberalism. In Islam, the right to marriage is restricted to the man, and a woman can only seek divorce, but she cannot, just divorce her husband unilaterally. But he can divorce her unilaterally.
you want to know what the answer Daniel could have given that Destiny most likely would have agreed on? Polygamy. When done well, polygamy can be mutually beneficial to all parties involved to engage in a relationship that they all agree on. And Destiny is polyamorous, so he's softer to polygamous rhetoric. But Daniel is so jihadi-brained that he couldn't even go that route. His response is, well, Muslim women should be forced into marriages that they don't want to be in. Imagine thinking that people are listening to this and thinking, wow, Islam is so right. I really should be a Muslim because of the honor it gives to people by forcing them to spend the rest of their lives with someone that they don't want to be with. But do you want to know what the real kicker is? The reason why Daniel didn't go down the polygamy route is because it's a Jonathan Brown argument.
Right? I've advocated for the change of law that says that, I've advocated that it is not right that the US government says that marriage can only be between a man and a woman.
To share common ground with non-Muslims over discussions about changing the way people view about marriage such that it allows for policy change to legalize polygamy. And Jonathan Brown works for Yaqeen, so yikes, yeah, we're not doing that.
My question is for Daniel, and it's related to the question you guys discussed about whether liberals would be better off under Sharia or Muslims would be better off under liberalism. If the roles were reversed and we were like standing right now in an Islamic country that is governed by Sharia law, could this debate that you guys are having right now be happening?
So there is a history of debating within Muslim societies because there were Muslim minorities. There were Christian minorities, there were Jewish minorities, in some places there were Zoroastrian minorities, some in the subcontinent there were Hindu minorities under the Mughal Empire. So there were debates that happened historically. If you don't have a historical understanding of Islam and instead you have this caricature that you read from Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins, then you're not going to know about this history. So yes, there's been a long tradition of debate and free inquiry in Muslim history.
So this is something that I don't know if you guys picked up on, or maybe it's just because I used to be the exact same way, so I'm able to recognize the sophistry, but when Daniel says, historically there have been debates, that doesn't mean there should be debates. It just means that, unfortunately, there were debates, but in either Islamic government, there would not be debates. Because proselytizing religions other than Islam are illegal. Having a debate about liberalism wouldn't be allowed either, because Daniel would consider it to be a shubha and a fasad. And lastly, let's just close this out with the biggest double standard that happened throughout the entire debate, that for some reason, Haqiqatjous don't realize. When Destiny asked Daniel why Muslims can't live and practice their religion under liberalism, Daniel's argument is, well, they can't implement hudud. Brunei got sanctioned for wanting to kill gay people, and Pakistan banned child marriages. But whenever Destiny brings up how killing gay people and marrying children are bad, Daniel cries and says, Why are you trying to reduce Islam down to killing gays and marrying children?
Laws of the country they live in. Now, when I gave that example of Sharia, you said, well, no, actually, there are times we want to kill gay people and we're not allowed to. And I said, okay, well, hold on. Like, yeah, maybe liberal governments prevent that, but there must be something else. And you're saying, oh, well, why are you trying to strawman it into just talking about executing gay people? I don't want to talk about executing gay people. I'm more concerned with the other parts of Sharia that you started to talk about when you got upset when I used your own example. You brought up that Sharia law can dictate things like relationships with neighbors and communities. Well, I'm interested. What parts of that Sharia law are restricted by liberal governments aside from things like child marriages?
Yeah, so I mentioned a lot of things other than just killing gays and child marriage. You were just playing into the liberal stereotype that
You're not even rambling.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, like,
Okay.
just playing into that liberal stereotype that I introduced to the audience that Islam is just about terrorism, it's about killing gays,
I never
it's
said
about
any
being
of that.
misogynistic.
This is your example.
So you've fallen into that caricature.
Firstly, what's wrong with mentioning those? Aren't you the one that says, I'm not apologetic, as if that's a good thing? You should be able to address certain policies that you are advocating for. Why are you shying away from your beliefs? Secondly, those are your examples. Why is it okay for you to use those examples of wrongful liberal oppression of Muslims, but whenever someone wants to talk about why stopping those ensures freedoms, you get embarrassed and rage? I mean, seriously, address your beliefs when confronted. Be a Chad. Wassalamu alaikum.